So one of the questions I obviously get asked first is, what's a Hyperloop? So here it is in basic principle. First principle is that it's a pod, not a train. You don't need to wait for 1,000 people to show up for it to be economically viable. Second principle is you put the pod in a tube, and that creates a controlled environment and enables us to do fully automated control. Third principle is, instead of using wheels, we levitate the vehicle to eliminate friction. And the fourth principle is we reduce the air pressure in the tube to significantly reduce aerodynamic drag. That enables Hyperloop to travel really fast. And by really fast, I mean in excess of 1,000 kilometers an hour. Our design speed is 300 meters a second, which translates to 1,080 km/h. So that's an overview of the tech. What is HyperloopOne, the company? The short answer is we're the company building Hyperloop right now. At our test and development site in the Nevada desert, the tubes are being delivered, they're being welded together, they're being hoisted into place, and right now, as we speak, the world's first Hyperloop test track is taking shape. A couple of weeks ago, we opened the world's first Hyperloop factory, also in Nevada, where we're machining the parts and doing some old-school metal work to make Hyperloop a reality. We're driving the project from our innovation campus in downtown Los Angeles, where we're bringing together over 170 of the world's best minds in engineering and transport and associated subjects. There are incredibly intense discussions between super bright people from all around the world, and this being California, there are also some great lunches. We have some great equipment. This is, I believe, the world's only magnetic levitation test rig that can operate in full vacuum conditions. And that's what the office looks like on a normal working day. Putting all those bright people and that great kit together enables us to develop Hyperloop really fast. And this little animation will just take you through our development pathway. On May the 11th, we tested the linear motor, our propulsion system. And this is it. We have this, it works. We're now extending the chassis, building the pod on top, levitating the pod, and putting the pod in the tube, and away we go. That's the HyperloopOne development path, and this is the speed of our development. We will have all of those elements, the key principles of Hyperloop, all integrated and operating together at our test site in Nevada by the first quarter of 2017. That delivers proof of technology. But it's no good having the technology unless we can deliver the projects that will use that technology. So we're also traveling the world, building projects right now. One of the first of those was FS Links, linking Helsinki and Stockholm, creating a Nordic super region. We published the preliminary study on the 4th of July 2016. That's the geography. If you travel from one capital city to another today, it'll take you 3.5 hours. By the time you got out to the airport, messed around with security, checked yourself in, 1 hour's flying, and then arriving in Helsinki, and then getting on the world's slowest airport express, which stops several times between Vantaa and downtown. So 3.5 hours all in all on a journey involving flying, and 17.5 hours on a ferry. And I'm coming to realize, having taken a number of trips on that ferry, that very few people are actually traveling for travel's sake on those boats. Most of them are there for a drink, because they stop in the Åland Islands in the middle, which is a duty-free territory. So 3.5 hours or 17.5 hours with Hyperloop becomes 28 minutes from one capital city to another. Turku to Helsinki becomes 12 minutes. Everywhere on the Swedish mainland is within 8 minutes of everywhere else. So what's happening at the very highest level is that hours are becoming minutes, 2 countries are becoming one super region, and multiple cities retain their diverse cultural identities but become a unified economy. Some people, particularly in tech, call that disruption. We call it innovation, and it's certainly transformation. So that's the tech, that's the company, that's the process, that's the projects. And the question now is, and now what? What happens now? How do we make it real? So one of the things we're looking at here in the Nordics is the proof of operations facility. What that facility does is enable us to prove Hyperloop at full scale, on a city-to-city scale, to demonstrate safe, reliable and robust operations, and to enable us to get all the regulatory approvals that we require to be able to promote, sell and deploy Hyperloop around the world. And as with everything we've done today, the timescale here is fast. We want to get this agreed in 2016. We need to get it planned in 2017. And in 2018, we want to be building the first 10 to 15 kilometers of full-scale Hyperloop facility in real-world conditions. And in 2019 to 20, we want to extend this to city scale, something like 40 to 50 kilometers. The indicative capex, somewhere between 2 and 3 billion euros, subject to validation. We'll be choosing the location for the proof of operations facility on a number of criteria. It must be a high-skill economy in the host location with world-class intellectual property laws. There must be a strong business-friendly government whose policy focus is on innovation. There must also be a well-established local high-tech industry base that can become our supply chain. And ultimately, the proof of operations facility must be able to become part of a full-scale operational commercial Hyperloop route. So that's the criteria for our location. How will we select that location? We're looking obviously for government to make us a joined up and comprehensive response that brings together inward investment and economic development support. We're looking for innovation agencies to line up local industrial and business and innovation partners as co-investors in the facility. But it's not just about money, and it's not just about business alignment. It's also about how streamlined can government make the process of interaction with the regulatory agencies and with the planning system. And ultimately here in the EU, the facility and its delivery mechanism needs to be aligned with the European Union's policy on transport, on research and innovation in the transport field. So, proof of operations. Let's take the example of Salo, where we are today. Salo, Finland. We've signed a letter of intent to look at a route from Salo as the European Union proof of operations facility for HyperloopOne. To look at using part of the route for proof of ops. Ultimately, the city's interests is in what happens when Salo is connected in less than 10 minutes to Helsinki and the airport. What happens to property values here in town? What happens when people can live in Salo and work in Helsinki? And right now, as a first phase, we're looking at what happens when we use the proof of operations facility to connect Salo and Turku in less than 10 minutes. This is about creating a Nordic centre of excellence in all the skills required to plan, deliver and operate HyperloopOne systems. And over time, the proof of operations facility becomes part of the full route. The other purpose today is to move FS Links, our local partner, from the preliminary phase, the study results which we published on the 4th of July, to the next phase of detailed project development study. We've already done the project identification, which identified FS Links in the first place as a potentially viable route. We've done the project scoping study, which we published in July, which identified fundamental feasibility of the FS Links route and its three sections: Finland mainland, Sweden mainland, and ultimately connecting all three sections, the two mainlands and the subsea tunnel between the two. Now we're moving on to detailed project development, which defines the system in detail and defines the project finance regime and procurement regime that will make it happen. Once that work is done, we can then move the project forward to delivery through empowerment, through the procurement and construction. We're now making FS Links available for third-party equity investment. The FS Links core team and ourselves will make available exclusive access to the HyperloopOne IP to progress this project. Exclusive access to the work that's already been done, which establishes the feasibility of the project, and will input the goodwill, the contacts, and the positive media that we've had. Collectively, we'll retain 60% of the FS Links pre-project vehicle. We're making 40% of the equity in FS Links available for third-party investors today. In small part, that equity investment will fund the ongoing operations of FS Links over the next couple of years, but the majority will form a private sector contribution into the detailed project development study which now lies ahead. And we make that contribution in the expectation of significant matching funding from European Union and Finnish government sources. Investors in the detailed project development stage of FS Links will become shareholders in that company, and those shareholders will own the intellectual property that the detailed project development study produces, which is the definition of the HyperloopOne system to be procured. And then, when the system is delivered by the delivery consortium, which could be, say, a bank, an airline as an operator, and a construction company, that's a typical configuration, the pre-project company sells the IPR, which enables the system to be delivered. So upstream investors have an exit point or the option to roll over at that phase. With our partners in FS Links, at HyperloopOne, we look forward to working with you to make this project a reality.